guys?
We're great. You guys look like you're in the studio right now.
Yep. We've been here for 45 days.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, wow.
Quarantining together.
At least you're in a place where you can get some stuff done.
Yeah. So are you in San Diego?
Tara is in San Diego. I'm in Los Angeles right now.
Oh,
Nice.
Okay. How are you guys doing?
We're good, all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean's my brother. He's also in a band, the Eiffels, and I'm Tara.
Awesome. Nice to meet you. I like your SSL board in the background.
Yeah. Is that like a Zoom background or is it a real place?
I was gonna say, are you gonna play some tune? You
Yeah.
Your record?
I know, it looks pretty real.
She's like, actually, we've
Definitely
remixed
fooled me
some
for a
Lifehouse stuff, and
Yeah. We got our 87 channel board here.
Notice if you just add some 808s to this track,
Yeah.
It changes
perfect
everything.
for the club. Yes.
That's amazing.
Are you guys recording in LA right now?
No, we're in Nashville.
Yeah, we
actually.
moved.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Right. I like your rig behind you, man.
Yeah, nice telly.
Nice telly.
Very color coordinated.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Uncle gave me that.
Nice.
Uncle Ken, shout out to him.
Shout out to Uncle
House
Ken.
Uncle Ken.
Complimenting your Telecaster you gave me. Thank you.
Yeah,
I like that.
Right on.
If you don't mind, I'm having a drink with because not every day you get to chat with Lifehouse, right?
I like
You know
that.
what? I'm gonna get a little wine.
I was gonna say, can we get more wine?
Yeah.
So we start. This is where the day starts. Very high octane.
Oh, there you go. Is that some whiskey?
That's cold brew usually, but that was pour over
Okay.
today.
Nice.
And then we go to the wine. So
Oh, perfect. All right.
it's the studio.
They say alcohol sales are up 50% this month.
hit me. 50%. That's just me.
50%. Yeah. Exactly.
We've done like it's so funny getting like delivery booze. Like, you feel like you have a problem when you
I know.
pull up to your house with like 3 handles of it's special.
I know. Yeah.
Gotta do it.
Bars are they doing that in Nashville too? I know in LA right now they're doing basically curbside pickup for cocktails. Are they doing that?
Oh yeah.
Nashville too?
Like you can drink a margarita in your car. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
That's what
margaritas.
it seems to be encouraging.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
Yeah. Well, Nashville is like, and I guess Tennessee, right? You can technically, I mean, it seems silly, but you can be the passenger in a car and drink, and it's legal, I think, here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Makes
a thing.
sense.
It's pretty
Not
awesome.
operating it. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it would still be terrible if you got pulled over because you're like,
Right. Yeah, it'd be hard to, talk your way out of that.
Yeah.
It's this guy's.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's not my cup holder.
totally.
Yeah. So Adam and I normally co-host, but he's taking care of our children. We have a 4 and a 12-year-old, so I get to have fun now.
like that.
So I guess maybe, we could start from the beginning like we usually do. Jason, when did you start playing music?
Let's see. I started playing music when I was 14, which is a little late to the game. I think that's when I learned my first couple chords. I started writing songs when I was 15, around 15, 16. So a lot of them were terrible, but there was one song in particular, a song called Trying, that kind of got me into a studio with a producer, and he did a demo of that. And then I met Jude Cole, our manager, and it happened really, really quickly. He took me into DreamWorks Records. And so between the ages of 14 and 19, I found myself with like a record deal really quickly and just like basically writing that first Lifehouse record.
Wow, that's crazy. It's fun. It's a lot of times you're watching these movies of bands and their success stories, and it seems to happen like that, but it's usually not like that. But it sounds like you actually had kind of one of those experiences where it was really quick.
Well, I think an interesting note to add to that was I wasn't in LA to pursue music. I was just there because my mom wanted to go back to college and get her degree. So I lived in a small apartment with my mom and sister. They were both going to college at the same time. and I was just like left at home with an acoustic guitar, I was homeschooled, so I was like cheating on like my exams and stuff, and just playing guitar all day basically. And yeah, so I wasn't there. I never had the dream as a kid, like I'm gonna be a rock star someday or anything like that. It was kind of a tough childhood, bad divorce, between my parents, and so for me, writing songs and music was just a way of like therapy of everything that was happening at the time. And so most of the songs on that first record are kind of like about that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I was reading about that. It was kind of a coping mechanism for you a little bit.
Yeah.
Were there some artists you were listening to at the time that started inspiring you to, take songwriting more seriously?
Yeah. When I got in the studio with Ron Aniello, the guy that did our first couple Lifehouse records, he was he was like my Mr. Miyagi, he was like kind of a mentor. I didn't know that much about music, and he was turning me on to the Beatles and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and REM and U2 at the same time. So
nice.
And then I found one of my favorite artists, Elliott Smith, a little bit later. So
nice.
From the time I was 16 to 19, I was just constantly just like absorbing this music that Ron was turning me on to. And so I think there's a lot of kind of like inflections of that in the first record.
It's interesting that were you always into music? Just not, not with rock star aspirations, but it was kind of, something that you enjoyed from a fan perspective, at least?
I liked music, to be honest. I was really obsessed with karate as a kid. Yeah, I'm a
Miyagi.
Yeah, I'm a brown belt. I think that
oh wow.
Yeah, I thought my life was going to end up being like a second degree black belt owning a small dojo until I moved to California and started playing guitar. But I was obsessed with basketball and karate, and I didn't discover music to where I feel like I was actually good at it until I was like 14, 15.
Wow. And Steve, you're playing pretty much filling the lead guitar role nowadays, right?
Yep.
So when did you pick up the guitar?
Well, I just want to quickly say also I was purple belt 2 stripes in karate. So the belts are different.
I've seen those 2 stripes.
Yeah, I think that like if his belt was part of like how they did it at my place, he was like 1 stripe away above me. So.
Steve still wears it to he wears it to the studio sometimes when we're not doing live broadcasts.
Yeah, I just really like to practice my kata still. I remember.
Still know the lingo.
Yeah, that was good.
I was going to say, have you seen that new movie, The Art of Self-Defense?
Yes.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah. The actor.
So good.
It was good. It was funny.
It's really
good. A dark comedy.
I like that.
It's really, really good.
Basically, to make himself feel confident throughout the day, he bought a regular belt, but he colored it the color of his belt.
That's
the guy from Social Network, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That was good. You haven't seen it?
No.
It's good.
Jesse Eisenberg, right?
It's good.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
But Steve you were from a musical family, like your dad.
Yeah, my dad played music. Organ and had like my dad had like, I have his organ at my house right now, but he had like this like 60s with crazy reverb on it organ with a Juno on top rig, and he'd always play like Nights in White Satin and stuff like at night. Spooky, but it's awesome. And I think my mom tried to play music too, but didn't really keep doing it. But
how old were you when you he was a drummer first?
Yeah, I did like whatever I did like the nerdiest possible, like you start in middle school, and I had my little snare drum and played drums only until I was like 13, and then I played guitar because I think I was like, nobody's gonna know what song I'm playing. You can't do name that tune on like the drum set, So I started playing guitar like freshman in high school, and then I just kind of kept doing that mostly. But recently we've both started playing drums again though, and it's pretty fun.
It's a rough patch right now.
Yeah, it's just really hard.
Takes both of us to get through a take.
Yeah.
Did anyone try to rope you back into being a drummer while you were doing a guitarist? Because I know a lot of times there's like with guitars, and then they need a drummer. And
yeah, I think the joke is just I think the only person was really my grandma. She'd always be like, it was almost like it wasn't passive aggressive, but the joke was always like,
Grandma Beatrice?
Oh, my other grandma.
Oh, not Beatrice.
My dad's mom. I'd be like playing guitar, and she's like, I just always love when you played the drums. And it was like, but Grandma, I'm playing guitar.
Those
like,
are words that no grandma has ever.
I know.
Yeah,
in 100 years.
I love watching you play the drums, but so I do it for Grandma now.
That's funny.
The one grandma who was walking in and going, "Can you turn it up?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
She loves it, man. It's great.
So I have a story actually that you might like, because to this day I still remember the first time that I heard "Hanging by a Moment." I was driving down the freeway. I think it was the 15. I was driving down by Qualcomm Stadium to work or something like that, and I remember "Hanging by a Moment" coming on the radio. I don't know if it was some rock, it might have been Rock 105.3 or maybe 91X.
How old are you? Are we the same age?
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know. I'm 36.
I'm a little older, 39.
Okay.
Still same.
Yeah, so I was driving. I just, you could tell it was a great song, and I think the DJ had, some nice words to say about it. But cool. I remember thinking your voice. I remember seeing the music video. Your voice didn't exactly match up. The voice sounded kind of like big and grizzled, and you were kind of like this, long.
That's amazing.
Looking dude.
Yeah.
I remember
grizzled.
I think it was perfect. It was perfect for the time because I was listening to kind of more hard rock stuff there. So you kind of had like this powerful sounding voice, which, but yeah, anyways,
That's funny.
I remember hearing it, and it was a great song, and I still remember it to this day.
I got
That's
that
awesome.
so much in the early days. We would walk into like radio stations to do our like little promo bits, and some of the teachers were like, "That's him." Like same thing. Like, you don't look like you sound, or like, or even my talking voice is different. It's a weird thing, but that's pretty funny.
I feel like the story you told me, or the guys in the band told me one day, was like, you like showed up to Jude's driveway or something with an acoustic, and they were like, "Wow, how's that? Sounds like a 40-year-old dude right now," and you're like 14 or something. Like, I feel like that's
exactly.
awesome.
It sounded like an older dude, and then it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now that I'm getting older, it slowly sounds like I'm becoming more of like an old lady.
It's fine.
My pitch is just getting
higher.
It's getting higher.
It's going backwards.
I have to really try to get those low notes.
It's fine.
So I mean, explain to us a little bit about because I feel like there's probably a missing part for the people listening. You're writing these little demos. You had this great mentor who was kind of giving you great influences. You're writing these little demos. So what was it about those demos, do you think, that got you to the level where DreamWorks all of a sudden was like, "Hey, let me help you with this project"?
Right. I think a lot of it was at the time, Ron, our producer, and Jude, our managers, their relationship together. Because I don't know if are you familiar with Jude Cole and his music at all?
I'm not sure if I am. What has he worked on?
He was a solo artist, singer-songwriter, amazing records back in the day. He was signed,
I think, Warner Brothers, right?
To Warner Brothers
Okay.
in the 80s and 90s. And he had a relationship with Michael Austin, who ended up working at DreamWorks. And so he just kind of took me in there, played a couple songs. So it was a very interesting connection that Michael signed Jude, and now he was signing me. So it felt like this kind of like familial thing. And DreamWorks was very much like that. They were, they felt like a family. They were very much about the artist, and like A&R to them meant stay out of the way and just let the artists kind of like make their own records. And it was a really, really beautiful time for music at the time. But I think that I got signed there because of Jude's relationship with Michael, and just the crazy energy between me, Ron, and him at the time, where the songs were just kind of coming out of me, and Ron was nailing the production, and they liked it, and the rest is kind of history,
Yeah, that's great. So it was kind of the relationship that they had with DreamWorks plus the chemistry that you guys had.
Yeah, and it was really cool too. Michael Austin was amazing to work with because he was just very supportive, and I, coming from the place where I didn't think of myself as like an artist or a musician. I didn't even know you could do this for a living, basically. So I was just kind of like, every day was just, I can't believe this is happening right now. Now I'm in a studio. Now I'm like singing for these presidents at labels and stuff. And it was unexpected, but I think there was something magical to the effect of, I didn't know what was happening to me at the time. Because I think now I would have been more nervous as an adult going into that situation, because I was so naive and just so young. I think I had the boldness to be like, well, I got nothing to lose because I didn't try to be here in the first place, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just one thing led to the next. And by the time we were finished with the first record, Hanging by a Moment, came out, and it just kind of exploded on the radio really quickly. So the whole band was so young, and just those moments of like, I can't believe we're listening to our song on the radio. And last week we were playing, there's this one funny story. One of our first gigs was at this like really small pub in San Francisco, and we had no following because we were basically born in the studio. You know, we didn't go out and play clubs for 5 years before we broke. So we had no fans, like nobody knew who we were. And I think someone from DreamWorks was going out and basically bribing people with free beer to like come to the club and see us play a couple songs. So there was like 10 people that ended up showing up. And then like 3-4 months later, we're on the road with Pearl Jam on the side stage, and they pulled us off of that tour because we were selling like 80,000 records like a week. It was like back in that time, you know, so we were on the Matchbox 20 tour after that. So it happened so quickly. It was just like that lightning in a bottle type of situation. So, and we were just not prepared for it. And if I have one regret, it would be to go back and actually enjoy some of it while it was happening, because I think we were all just like, this is too crazy. I don't know how to process this right now, you know?
Right. Didn't have enough time to take a look around and enjoy all of it.
Yeah, totally.
I do remember that song being huge, and then your follow-up being huge too. And I remember seeing it pretty regularly on MTV. And 2000, 2001, that was around the time TRL was like huge too. Were you guys on TRL? I imagine you guys probably were.
I think this song made the countdown. We never actually were on the show.
Right.
But
I feel like it was probably on the countdown though.
Yeah, I think so. I think in the middle of the Matchbox tour, I think Rob went out on stage and he's like, he said something really nice about Lifehouse. You know, we were just kids opening for him, but he was so generous and sweet to us. And he's like, man, these guys are selling 80,000 records a week. They're on TRL. We've never been on TRL before. And
TRL was dope.
It was funny. It was sweet. But the Matchbox guys are just gems of humans. They were so nice to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after that, you guys, you had your follow-up hit. Was that part of a soundtrack? I feel like it was connected to a movie or something like that.
Are you talking about
You and Me?
You and Me?
Yeah.
So to go back, there was like a 3-year period after Hangin' by a Moment came out and No Name Face, our first record. Our second album, we tried to make more of a alternative rock record out of it, and I don't think it was really received on pop radio or alternative. We got stuck in that weird zone of like, are they a pop band? Are they a rock band? Nobody really knew what to do with us at that point because Hangin' was so big on all these different formats. And I just remember us putting the record out, and it felt like the whole progression just started to go down a little bit. Like, honestly, people stopped coming to the shows. We lost our record deal after that album. Yeah. Wow. DreamWorks ended up going bankrupt or folding or whatever. And so there was a period between 2002 and 2004 where I honestly thought that we were just like one-hit wonders. And it was just, this happened to me when I was 21, and now I have to figure out how to become really good at Starbucks or like making Subway sandwiches. I don't know, because I didn't go to college. I had no idea what to do.
Back to the dojo plan, maybe.
Yeah.
Karate.
I honestly thought about it, but I'm like, man, I can't kick high anymore.
You could have been the master, you know? He doesn't have to kick.
But it got to the point where I'm like, the only thing that I really love and that I know is songs. And so during that period, when we couldn't get anybody on the phone, like we didn't know if we were going to be able to make music professionally after that, there was just like this really silent 8-month period where me and my buddy just started making songs every day. He would record me. We got a little inbox, and so I think I wrote like 60 songs in like 8 months, and I'm like, okay, I still love this. And then that kind of whittled down to 20, and then the 20 became 12. And so by 2014, You and Me was one of those songs. And we got back into the studio. Actually, Jude called me one day and he said, you're going to get like another shot to make another record. And Geffen and Interscope bought the DreamWorks catalog. So it was bands like us, Nelly Furtado, Jimmy Eat World, Papa Roach, that they acquired, the rights to them. Right. And so like a lot of those guys ended up having really a lot of success after that. We were just excited to be able to have a budget to make another record, So at that point, 2 members of our band quit in the same week. Sergio, our original bass player. Yeah. And
at that moment, that's an interesting time to quit.
It was right before that. It was during the time where it was kind of going down here.
Right.
And Ricky, the drummer, he's like, I'm in no matter what. So it was just me and Ricky that made the third album, the one that had you and me on it, and we flew to Easton, Maryland with a producer named John Alasia, who did the first John Mayer record, Room for Squares, and Jason Mraz. And so we just totally hit it off and connected on music, and just how he made his records were great. Like we just lived at his house, and it was fully just like college dorm room, like we
didn't you guys like go boating a lot?
Yeah, every day we would take a break at like 5-6 o'clock, go have some beers, like have some crab cakes, and then come back and just jam until like 2-3 in the morning. We did that for a month and a half.
So awesome.
And then that third record came out of that time.
So I guess lucky for you that Geffen kind of acquired DreamWorks then, huh? And lucky for Nelly Furtado and a couple of those other artists, huh?
Yeah, totally. And you and me, I think that we all owe a lot to that song.
Yeah.
I co-wrote that with Jude. I remember that song missed our second record. So I wrote that with him. He brought these chords in. I was like, I really like that. Kind of finished the song. So there was like 4 different arrangements of that song before it ended up being the one on the radio, which is really interesting. So right after the first record, before we started touring, this song was just kind of laying around. And I think it's interesting that if you do have a song that's really inspired, it doesn't matter when it comes out. I think a lot of it has to do with timing, but there's something for me, that song is really special because that's the song that I proposed to my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, and I wrote it about her. So it's interesting that it just sat like on the sidelines and basically gave us like another 7-8 year run at being on the radio and kind of touring stuff.
I do remember hearing that story, that there was something about a wedding connection with that. And then was it on like was it on Smallville soundtrack or something like? And that show was huge during that time too.
Yeah, it was big. We were actually the
Didn't you guys play in an episode or something?
Yeah, we were the prom band.
Yeah, I watched that. I think
they made us wear suits, and we there's an episode somewhere out there, but that really helped the song kind of get on the radio. And back then too, remember, like Grey's Anatomy was a big deal. I think it was on that show. So like the TV sync thing was definitely helping the cause for the song. But it took a long time. We were in a minivan promoting You and Me for like 7-8 months straight, just like going all the stations again, going in, playing 3 songs. And then the song was kind of climbing, and then it would fall off. And so, but it took like 8 months for it to kind of stick and be something to people.
Yeah. Now it's one of those songs that it comes on and people know it. The prom band thing reminds me of a story Tara told me right before we hopped on here, and I think Adam told me about it too. So grew up in San Diego, both went to a high school called Mount Carmel High School, and I heard that you guys played prom there for some contest a while back.
You played a prom?
Yeah, we played a Beatles cover, and all the kids were like, "I love that Elvis song."
That's sick.
It was a contest, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was like a magazine, a girls' magazine.
That's right. Yeah, we played a whole set, and it was such a strange time. We were like, "What are we doing here? This is kind of cool, I guess so."
That's so funny.
But it felt like one of those, like we were in like a rom-com movie or something, But,
do you remember around what year that was?
Oh, that must have been, I think Sean was still in the band, so that must have been like 2003 or 4, I think.
Yeah, it was Adam's prom. It was Adam's prom, and he graduated 2003. So
it was around the same time before the whole thing kind of imploded.
That's amazing. At least you guys had a prom.
I actually, that's one of
It was
the
the beginning of the end.
That is one of the shows that I'll never forget, though, because it was so strange, you know.
That's
but
sick.
It was really cool too, you know, because it's, I don't know, it just seemed kind of like a special thing, and I'll never forget those kids going, like, "I love that Elvis song."
That's a great Elvis song.
It's like, it was George Harrison.
Come on, man.
Was that a one song performance, or did you play the whole prom?
I think we played a full set, and then we just threw that cover in there for like the slow dance part.
That's so sick.
It was so funny.
What song was it? Do you remember?
I think it was something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah.
There you go. Got to work the Beatles in there somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
So you kind of get, you know, some redemption with Geffen and this new hit. So where did it go from there? When did you hop on, Steve?
I'm like 6 years deep now. I'm a newer guy. I was a fan, so it's pretty funny. Nice. I was like so nervous when I auditioned. I was like, oh, I love this band so much.
Steve showed me a video of him.
Oh yeah,
he kind of looked like me
a little bit,
like early me.
Yeah,
and he was doing a cover of "Hanging by a Moment" at his like school,
my like college performance thing or something.
Actually, tell the story of how you like met Jude and how we all kind of.
Oh yeah, it. I think there was this moment. I went to music school, and so there was this moment where I was like, I just always assumed anyone you saw in photos of a band played everything on the record. What else would you think as a kid? And so I remember thinking like, okay, what am I actually going to like do for a job now? Like in 2-3 years when I graduate. And so I started looking at like album credits finally, and was like, whoa, whoever this Jude guy is plays a lot of guitar on these records. And I was like, that's really cool. Okay. And just trying to figure out like, what is a session guitar player? What is a producer? Like, do they play stuff on the record? Like just kind of understanding that a little bit more. And so I guess I had just like seen his name, and I was a fan of the band and stuff. And randomly I worked at like admissions, the office, like where you would, if you tried to call like Berkeley to be like, oh, hey, can you help me with my application or something? Like you'd get one of 4 people in this little basement.
Steve has a music degree.
I do, which is like
pretty fancy.
The good news is like if I run out of toilet paper, actually I think I gave my mom the degree, so I think she has it. I was like, I'm not gonna hang this up. I'm not a doctor. Like, what do I do with this thing? It feels pretty pointless. But basically, anyway, I like knew of Jude's name, and I saw this email come through that was like wanting to take one of his sons on like a tour, and I was like, just the odds of me out of the 4 people working that day getting that email, and then happen to like know that name, and I was like, oh, this is so sick. This is that guy. And I was like, so I like found him on Facebook, and I was like, hey man, like big fan. Like if you want to see anything specific at the school, let me know. Awesome. You know? And so I just like met him the day he showed up, and I didn't give him the tour. I just like was like, how are you doing? And just kind of kept in touch about like guitar gear for years. I would just be like,
and then you moved to LA.
Yep. I moved to LA,
stayed in contact, and Jude he kind of like stayed in touch with you.
Yeah, just like I would hit him up every like 2 years about like, what guitar did you use on that song? Like, I bet you played that part, didn't you? You
Smart
know,
move.
Yeah.
So he got in the room with Jude, and it was at the point where we were.
You had like an in between guitar player for a minute.
Yeah, we kind of parted ways with our one guitar player, and we had a couple interims in there. And Jude was like, "Hey, go try out for the." So Steve comes he comes over to the studio with me, Bryce, and Ricky. We could totally tell that he's like fanboying out.
Oh, dude, I'm such a fan.
He was so nervous. So it's like, it's kind of the quintessential like the young. He's like 10 years younger than all of us, so it's like the young fan gets to play in the band, and
it was like a Make-A-Wish Foundation moment.
Yeah, and at first we're like, we don't know about Steve. We don't. He's so young and he's so excited. He's like a little puppy dog right now.
So excited.
But we did a couple gigs together, and we're like, okay, this is starting to feel good. You know, that starts to gel.
It was funny because I had like there was like a 3-4 year gap between college ending and this, and I played in like a bunch of other bands and like toured like 6 to 9 months out of the year with like a band called Blondfire for a long time that was on Warner Brothers, and none of that seemed to matter for a second. I was just like, this is like the real time. You know, like
then what happened? The record that we were on at the time, Out of the Wasteland, we were supposed to open up for Nickelback on a tour, and they canceled the tour.
We were on the tour. We were sound checking at the first show.
No, but our record came out like 3 weeks before. So we were planning this big summer tour. The whole record tanked in like 2 weeks. You know, we did all this promo like leading up to it. Yeah. And we had like the craziest like 2-day bus ride from LA to Washington State. Took us 2 days to get there, sound checked, and then the singer canceled the tour because he had to get throat surgery. Yeah. So, and that was right after Steve joined the band. So it's like his one moment and then everything shut down. No.
Yeah. I know. I was like, come on, man. We did a couple TV things and then like that was it.
We did like a Guitar Center session.
Yeah. Played like a arena for Walmart or something too, which was terrifying. Every single thing that we did, I thought was like our manager just trying to make me more nervous. Like it was like your first show that you're going to do is you're going to play completely on camera and do like a whole set. And then it was like, how about we play in an arena now? And it was like, can we just play like a show? It's terrifying.
I was nervous too. To do that because I was kind of like out of
the Guitar Center,
out of practice too.
And those cameras, man, they're like right in your face.
So I think that me and Steve really bonded.
Went to Europe.
Yeah. And that was a year later.
I think that was just what would have been the end of the tour.
Was that in the fall then?
Yeah, that was the fall.
Okay, so we took the summer off because they canceled the tour, and then we played the Philippines. We did a full Europe run. We went to Australia.
It was like 6 weeks total, I think.
Yeah, and so that's when we got to like really hang with Steve and
finally play some shows.
Yeah. And after that, I was like, all right, this guy's he's totally in.
I think once I was like super tired on tour, I was like myself again. And then I think the nerves went away.
Get that little puppy dog energy.
Yeah, it was funny. I was so excited. It was sick. Yeah.
Have you, Steve, seen the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the same thing. It's the same exact
I love that movie.
Story. Yeah, totally.
It was great. I know these songs.
He had to dive in and get the black eye before he like chilled out.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that movie. I mean, I
love it. I do too.
It got bad reviews. Like I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes, it got bad reviews.
It's funny though.
I think it's great.
Technically bad, but I think if you're a musician, you like those kinds of movies.
Doesn't he sing like a Verve Pipe song at the end? He's like every one of those movies at the end, they're like basically a hotel cafe, and they're playing
exactly.
Like this is true success.
You went grunge at the very end.
Yeah.
I've seen it like three or four times.
I want to watch it again.
I think it's a guilty pleasure for sure.
Yeah, totally.
It's like I love movies like that.
I love Mark Wahlberg, so I'll watch it.
Totally. That Thing You Do, Almost Famous, like all of that stuff is like. So
I actually just rewatched The Runaways, which is on Netflix again now too.
Oh, what's that one again?
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's good. It's got Kristen Stewart for playing Joan Jett.
Nice.
And it's the same kind of vibe. It's like. It's like the formulaic rock star movie, but in a way that's fun, So.
Yeah, totally.
Those movies are great.
I love them.
Yeah. So Steve pays his dues with you guys, and you guys are comfortable with him. And I saw that I saw on your Spotify a little while ago that you were supposed to be touring with Goo Goo Dolls right now, but of course everything's probably on hold. But it made me think because I haven't seen some of your other tour. Obviously you said you toured with Matchbook 20 and some other artists, but the Goo Goo Dolls actually seems like a great fit. And I never really put you guys together, but especially you and me, I'm listening to it and I'm like, yeah, actually that makes perfect sense that you guys would. And Goo Goo Dolls are great, So how's that been touring with them? Because I know you guys have toured with them before.
Yeah, I think that tour was 2007, 2008.
Yeah. Right.
So we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with this tour and just kind of taking their lead, and whenever they want to do, we're going to follow suit. But I love that band so much, man. Those songs are so good. Like the songs on Dizzy Up the Girl still are just some of my favorite tunes, man.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
So is the other band, is the whole band in there, or are you guys, is it just you two working on tunes right now?
Right now, me and Steve have a side project called Oswald, and it's kind of like a 60s throwback type of thing. And so we've been working a lot on that and just doing a bunch of like Zoom co-writing sessions with other artists and just trying to stay as busy as we can because we're stuck down here,
Yeah.
And we just put together like a little mini festival with Oswald, our side project that we're going to do next Saturday. And we have Brian Fallon
from Gaslight Anthem.
Taylor Ramsey from Band of Horses.
Love him. Yeah.
One of the guitar player from Julian from the band Real Estate. Heard of them?
Yeah.
It's going to be super fun. We're going to host it on
Blondfire.
Blondfire that I was in, and then I had another band, Lost Beach. I started with a buddy, and he's going to play, so it's awesome.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of do what we're doing right now, just host it, play a song, talk about music, let them play a song, and then just a bunch of friends that are doing the same thing.
We're all bored.
Trying to make
that sounds
craziness. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be good.
When is that going to be again? And how can people jump in
next? It's going to be next Saturday, so May 9th, and it's going to be at 6 p.m. Central Time. We'll host it on our, it's at Oswald Music, OZWALD Music on Instagram, and we're just going to host it off there and we're going to like screen share when people jump on. We have a bunch of like time slots figured out. It's going to be fun.
We've never done it before too. So it's like, I'm sure there's going to be like some bumps.
Oh yeah. It's going to be bumpy for sure.
But honestly, like this Zoom songwriting thing that we just did with Brian Fallon the other day, it's so cool, man. It's like, I think that everybody is so tired of being isolated and inside that it's just nice to see, like, even it's nice to see your faces, you know. It's like there's other humans out there, you know, because I haven't been
at a bar, you know.
Totally.
Serious.
We haven't been outside in like a month and a half. It's the strangest
thing. We both watched almost every Harry Potter movie. It's like
me and my wife watched Game of Thrones from the beginning
in like 7 days, right?
I thought about doing that.
10 days. Okay.
10 days.
That's so fast.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. Another little kind of story that's hilarious is the reason that me and Steve are kind of quarantined together right now. We had a gig booked March 13th
in our drummer's town. Our drummer lives in
Arizona. And we got a call from Jude. He's like, guys, I don't feel good about you flying right now. It was right before the full shutdown where it's like kind of scary, but all of our friends were shaming us for wanting to drive to the gig instead of fly. They're like, this is going to blow over in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of like, oh, don't worry about that, man.
So me and Steve get in my car and drive like 4 days in advance before the show all the way to Arizona.
Yeah.
It took us 2 days to get there, right? And then an hour before we got
1 hour.
1 hour before we were just coming over the hill, we're like, whoa, Arizona looks beautiful right now.
We're going to do this.
We get a call from our tour manager and he's like, guys, turn around. The show's been canceled. And we knew it was going to be canceled. But
we knew the whole time. We were like placing bets.
Yeah, the promoter would not tell us that it was canceled. So we had to show up just because we didn't want to get sued.
Yeah.
And so we get to the hotel. And me and Steve just start laughing uncontrollably for like 2 hours. Margarita, we're like, you can't write this stuff, you know. It's like we wake up the next
elbow bumping our crew. We're like,
you know. We wake up the next day and we just turn around and drive back to Nashville. So we were in the car for 50 hours straight.
Yeah, I think it was even more. Like if you really added it up.
Yeah, that's a drive.
We counted the miles. We're like, this is like, if we started in New York and drove all the way to LA and another
like 400 miles into the ocean.
That's how far we went. And then the show got canceled. So, and then like right when we got home, everything shut down. And so
you guys are like, let's just come here.
I'm like, if I'm sick, you're sick. We're not going to see anybody
neither
else.
Neither of us go out and do anything anyway. So we're like, maybe if we just hang out with each other, that's it. Then we'll be all right.
So, totally.
Just and then 2 weeks later, you're like, let's just keep working on music and that basically.
We're just kind of always doing something.
Exactly
so
So in a way, we're not doing something that much different than we did before, except we just can't go anywhere. So
now we just have to order our groceries in instead.
Yeah. But the co-writing thing's cool because you can, even like writing with Brian, we wrote the song together. Like if we were all writing a song right now, wrote the lyrics out, and it's like, okay, man, let's just call it for a second. You know, it's like we wrote the song in like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Me and Steve tracked the song here, sent it to him because he has a studio in New Jersey, and then he put his parts down, sent it back. Steve mixed it, and the song was done in a day.
We just put that song out. It's called "Open Up the Doors Again." And then that came out yesterday, I think. That was the first song I think we wrote with Brian on that. So it's under
did you release that as Oswald or is
that Jason
project?
I think that's under my name. That's
Jason Wade's solo.
A solo song. So but the whole thing was like, we just want to write something positive that's going to make people feel a little bit better because it's so dark right now.
Yeah.
It's like any positivity you can get.
Yeah, I was wondering because I know I've heard from a couple people that, or I've seen from a few people, you know, people are doing these Zoom like sessions. They're posting it to their Instagram stories and all that. And I was wondering how much post editing is going on in a lot of those things. Are you literally sitting there with your acoustic guitar and Brian's over there with his, and he's like, oh yeah, that sounds like, how is the sound? Because I know I've heard complaints from some people that Zoom messes with the sound of instruments sometimes. I think there's a setting.
We don't record over Zoom, so I think that's kind of part of it. But what I will say that is awesome about Zoom versus like, I don't know if FaceTime still does this. We kind of like sort of wrote something yesterday on FaceTime and it worked. But like a lot of video chatting interfaces will, the second one guy talks, it mutes the other side so that it doesn't go into like a feedback loop, So I think that what's the smart thing about like, which I probably think is like the main reason. It's funny enough, like I feel like a couple months ago, no one even knew what Zoom was. And like, I knew we had an account because we use it for stuff, but like,
I mean, I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, it's like so weird.
I know FaceTime.
Now it's like Band-Aid. Yeah. Like it's like video chat is the word Zoom, which is so crazy to me. But I think it doesn't ever mute either side. So you can kind of you can sort of jam, but I think a lot of times like we all play guitar and obviously Brian as well. So we'll just kind of be like, we all could sort of kind of get through the chords and then we'll just like take turns.
I think the main thing with Zoom is like get the song written because we're bouncing lyric ideas back and forth. And once we all kind of go like, okay, we have the first verse, we have the chorus, the second verse is done. Change a little bit in the second chorus. Yeah. All right, let's track it for real now. Like
do like a voice memo just in case.
Sort of demo with like the pro gear, and then go back and forth in a session with like Pro Tools and stuff like that.
Yeah, we like send him the mix and he like adds tracks and sends them to us.
It's really fun, it's definitely,
it sounds fun. Yeah, that's what I'm asking about it. It sounds
fun. It's a definite different approach to it. But I don't know, there's something cool about like I think awesome things come out of necessity sometimes. I think everyone's so frustrated where it's like, how can we still be creative in this time? So it's been, we have another session tomorrow that we're gonna try.
Yep. We've been working on a track. A lot of times now we'll try to like kind of start like the instrumental thing. So it's not just this awkward, like you get on the thing and it's like, a lot of times it's like this blind date type thing and you've never met these people before. You get set up through your like publishing company and you're like, it would be super weird to just have nothing at all to start with. So I think like coming in with some kind of track where you're like, what about this? And then you can just do like melody and lyrics. And then you're like, all right, cool. Now we're good.
Right. Yeah. Do some of the heavy lifting first. And
then,
or just a little bit. Yeah. Just to break the ice too. It's like tomorrow we're working with this awesome artist named Lolo, and I know her music, but we've never met before. So it's going to be nice to just send some ideas back and forth to kind of break the ice over text before we just like, hey, nice to meet you. What do you think about this idea? And let's write some really personal lyrics.
Yeah.
Too,
you like to sing?
Right.
Yeah.
Let them gather their thoughts before they actually have to see you get put on the spot. What did you think? Did you love it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's
Sometimes new processes or limitations can, be inspiring in their own ways.
Totally.
I think so too.
Well, I was just curious, Jason, because I was also homeschooled in high school, and back then we only had like Craigslist and stuff like that. So how did you hook up? Like, did you just like, how did you get to that recording studio? How did you connect to those people? Was it through emails or just like getting a job somewhere?
For me, back then I was raised really religious. So we would go to church and I played songs in church, and that's where I met Ron, and a good friend of my wife's best friend at the time, Kendall Payne. She got this record deal. There was this like huge musical community happening at this church called the Malibu Vineyard at the time in Malibu, with a lot of really creative people. And it became this thing where I was like leading worship at the youth group and meeting all of these amazing people that were creative people that weren't necessarily like Christian producers. And I think that's where it's a really long story, and it was a kind of a sad story where like the youth pastor ended up being like a child molester and fled the country and did all this stuff. For me, at the point,
worse than Craigslist.
Worse, way worse.
You should have just gone on
the back pages.
Craigslist would have been fun.
So when I got in the studio and I was writing some of these songs, I remember some of like the people at the youth group saying like, "Oh, you can't sing about this stuff. That's not biblical or whatever." And that's when I was like, I don't really agree with that. I think I should be able to write whatever I feel I need to write right now. So there was kind of like, it started there. That's where I met Ron and then Jude, and it kind of like turned into something else. But I just remembered in the early days going like, I don't want to be put in any sort of box as like a musician or a songwriter. I want to be able to kind of like write whatever I'm going through or feel without like rules attached to it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, no Craigslist. It was church.
That's how I got some gigs.
Yeah, totally.
And I just had one question, one other question, Steve. So you worked at the Berklee School of Music in admissions for like questions. Is that like, did they help you with tuition, or was that after you graduated?
No, I worked there while I was there. I guess it was like work study, but it was just like, I don't think I was paying it to tuition at the time. I think I was just using it to like pay for food. And like, I think I bought a lot of guitar pedals with it. So I have like, those
You're
now.
still doing the same move.
Yeah. It was mostly guitar pedals, but I did it for like 3 years though. And funny enough, the dude who was the boss right before I started working there is this guy. I'm sure you've met, Steve. I don't know if it's Fiquette or Fekete, but he played in like Avril Lavigne's band, Vertical Horizon, a bunch of bands.
Oh, another Steve.
Another Steve, yeah. So it was funny that he ended up like moving on right before I got that job, but he would have been like, but I know him now and we're friends, which is kind of funny. But it was a fun job. It was like, I would just watch like live music videos all day. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, you probably inspired a lot of musicians out there that you talked to help them get in. So
it was mostly moms that are like, you won't believe what my son can do. He can play the drums. He can play the bass. He plays everything.
Dude, I totally cheated too. I like ripped off so many church kids. Like my whole thing was like, oh, these like little 14-year-olds like look up to me now. I'm like 16, so I would give them guitar lessons and pay my rent with that.
Yeah, you charged a lot too.
Well, I charged enough, but they like I get over there, they didn't even want to like learn. We ended up playing video games the whole time.
That's sick. I was a bad teacher.
Yeah, that was my first job.
I like that. That's good.
Taught him a power chord or two.
You're like, I'm like, this is. I'm like, I only know 4 chords. This is E minor. That's C. That's G. That's D. That's every '90s song that you're ever gonna need.
Pop song. There you go.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's good.
We wanted to know if you had one piece of advice to give to musicians, aspiring musicians, who are coming up or who are maybe inspired by you or anybody. What would that piece of advice be?
Man, right now, I would say anybody that can stay inspired and write a song and stay sane right now and be able to do it, in any capacity, if not for anything else, just for the sanity of mind, like how I started, just like music is therapy, like I say this all the time to younger musicians, if your heart is pure about it and your intentions are pure and you just love music so much, just don't give up, because it's a really tough business and it's getting harder all the time, especially with all this stuff happening. But I think that music is so important and art in general is so important, and it's so uplifting. I would just say just try to stay resilient and not get discouraged, especially with everything that's going on.
That's great advice. Steve, anything to add to that?
Oh man, I don't know. I think just be resourceful, I guess, like I'm one of those dudes who just like, I can't really
use anything that you can.
Path of least resistance on whatever software, you can figure out, like do it on your phone, like whatever it is, but just do it though, I think that's the biggest thing is just,
and don't be afraid to multitask too. It's like when we were kids, it's like we all had 3 or 4 real job type things happening. It's
for sure.
And music is more of a hobby at first, but I think if you really want to do it for a living, that turning point where it's like, I'm obsessed with this, but there's no shame in doing other stuff to kind of support yourself while you're trying to achieve that stuff.
Bringing it backward.